December 12th, 1988. A date etched into the collective memory of an entire community. Yet for 2 decades, it remained a phantom, a whisper carried on the wind through the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Canadian wilderness. It was the day Reverend Johnnie Lee Jordan, a respected black pastor from Longview, Washington, simply vanished. Not a trace, not a single witness, just an unsettling, absolute void where a vibrant life had once been. The initial reports were as chilling as they were sparse. Reverend Jordan, known for his unwavering faith and his dedication to his congregation, had embarked on a solo hunting trip to a remote area of the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, a place of towering Douglas firs and ancient cedars, where the silence could be as profound as the solitude. He was an experienced outdoorsman, familiar with the terrain, but on this particular day, something went terribly, irrevocably wrong. His absence was noticed quickly, a stark contrast to his usual punctuality. Family and friends, accustomed to his methodical nature, grew anxious as the hours turned into days. The initial search effort was immense, a testament to the respect and affection he commanded. Hundreds of volunteers, local law enforcement, and search and rescue teams scoured the dense forest, their hopes diminishing with each passing moment. Helicopters crisscrossed the sky, their rotors a rhythmic thrum against the backdrop of the otherwise silent wilderness, attempting to spot any sign of the missing pastor. Ground crews, armed with maps and an increasingly desperate determination, navigated treacherous ravines and scaled steep inclines, their voices echoing through the trees as they called out his name, only to be met by the indifferent rustling of leaves. They found nothing. No discarded gear, no footprints, no sign of a struggle, not even a broken branch to suggest his path. It was as if the forest itself had swallowed him whole, leaving behind no indication of his passage. The disappearance became a local legend, a chilling cautionary tale whispered around campfires. Theories abounded, each more unsettling than the last. Had he gotten lost, succumbed to the elements, a victim of the unforgiving winter that rapidly encroached upon the region? Or had something more sinister occurred, a dark deed hidden beneath the dense canopy of ancient trees? The lack of evidence fueled rampant speculation, casting a long shadow over the tight-knit community. His family, particularly his wife and children, were left in an agonizing limbo, a perpetual state of grief and uncertainty. How does one mourn a person who is neither confirmed alive nor definitively deceased? The passage of time did little to dull the ache, only deepened the mystery, transforming a tragic event into an enduring enigma. The initial flurry of activity eventually faded, the search teams disbanded, and the headlines moved on to other, more immediate crises. But for those who knew and loved Reverend Jordan, the question lingered a raw, unhealed wound. What had truly happened to the man who walked into the wilderness that frigid December day and never returned? The forest held its secrets close, its vastness an impenetrable vault. And for nearly 2 decades, it seemed those secrets would remain buried, lost to the relentless march of time and the unforgiving embrace of nature. Yet, the story was far from over, awaiting a chance encounter, a fateful discovery that would shatter the silence and finally begin to unravel the chilling truth behind Johnnie Lee Jordan's disappearance. The wilderness, it turned out, was not as silent as it seemed. It simply held its breath, waiting for the opportune moment to speak. The air in the forest, even on that cold December day, carried the faint, earthy scent of pine needles and damp soil, a smell that for Reverend Jordan must have been a comfort, a familiar embrace of nature. He was a man deeply connected to the outdoors, finding solace and spiritual renewal amidst the grandeur of creation. His hunting trips were not merely about the pursuit of game. They were pilgrimages, moments of quiet reflection and communion with a higher power. This particular trip, however, would be different, a journey from which he would not return. His truck, a reliable companion on countless expeditions, was found abandoned, parked carefully off a remote logging road. Its presence only amplified the unsettling nature of his absence. A vehicle left in such a manner by an experienced woodsman suggested not a hasty departure, but perhaps a sudden, unforeseen event. The keys were gone, the doors unlocked, leaving behind a silent testament to a life abruptly interrupted. Investigators meticulously combed the truck's interior, searching for any clue, any anomaly that might point them in the right direction. They found his hunting license, a half-eaten sandwich, and a worn Bible, its pages dog-eared from years of use. These items painted a picture of a man prepared for his outing, a man who intended to return. The lack of any struggle within the vehicle only deepened the mystery. There were no signs of forced entry, no disturbed items, nothing to indicate foul play at the immediate scene. The truck sat there, an inanimate sentinel guarding a chilling secret. The initial theory leaned heavily towards an accidental disappearance. The Gifford Pinchot National Forest, while beautiful, was also notorious for its unforgiving terrain. Sudden changes in weather, steep ravines, hidden crevasses, and swift-moving rivers all posed significant dangers, even to the most seasoned outdoor enthusiast. Hypothermia was a constant threat, and a fall could easily lead to incapacitation and eventual demise. Search dogs, their keen noses pressed to the cold ground, were deployed, but the vastness of the forest and the rapid onset of winter weather quickly hampered their efforts. The ground, already firm with a nascent frost, offered little in the way of scent trails, and what little remained was soon obliterated by the first significant snowfall of the season. Each flake that fell was another layer of obscurity, another barrier between the searchers and the truth. The snow, initially a delicate dusting, soon accumulated into several inches, transforming the landscape into a pristine, white expanse, beautiful yet utterly unforgiving. It concealed potential clues, erased tracks, and made every step a labor. The sheer scale of the operation was daunting. Hundreds of square miles of dense forest, a labyrinth of trees and undergrowth, lay before the searchers. It was like searching for a single needle in an impossibly large haystack, with the added pressure of rapidly dwindling daylight and plummeting temperatures. The volunteers, driven by a deep sense of community and a shared concern for Reverend Jordan, pushed themselves to their physical and emotional limits. They called out his name until their voices were hoarse, their breath misting in the frigid air. They navigated treacherous slopes, their boots crunching on the frozen earth, their eyes scanning every fallen log, every cluster of bushes, every shadow that might conceal a clue. But the forest remained silent, offering no answers, only an echoing void. The family, meanwhile, endured the unimaginable. His wife, a woman of immense strength and faith, held on to a fragile hope, even as the days stretched into weeks and the weeks into months. The children, bewildered and heartbroken, struggled to comprehend the sudden, inexplicable absence of their father. Every phone call, every knock at the door, brought a surge of adrenaline, a desperate hope that this would be the moment of good news, only to be met with the same grim report. Nothing. The emotional toll was immense, a quiet suffering endured within the confines of their home, while the outside world slowly began to forget. As the initial intensive search efforts wound down, the official designation shifted from missing to presumed lost. This bureaucratic categorization offered little comfort, providing no closure, only a legal framework for a tragedy that remained emotionally raw. The case, however, was not closed. It remained an open file, a lingering question mark in the records of the local sheriff's department. Periodically, new information, often fueled by rumors or psychic predictions, would spark a brief resurgence of interest, but each lead proved to be a dead end, only reinforcing the frustrating lack of concrete evidence. The forest, with its silent, watchful trees, seemed determined to guard its secrets indefinitely. The sun rose and set, seasons turned, and the once fresh memory of Reverend Jordan's disappearance began to fade into the annals of unsolved mysteries. His picture, once prominently displayed on bulletin boards and in local newspapers, slowly became a faded relic, a painful reminder of a life cut short and a truth forever obscured. But the wilderness, though slow to reveal its secrets, has a way of eventually relinquishing them, often at the most unexpected times, in the most unforeseen ways. The stage was set, unknowingly, for a discovery that would not only rewrite the narrative of Johnnie Lee Jordan's disappearance, but also expose a darker, more disturbing truth that had festered beneath the surface for 20 long years. 20 years later, the year is 2008. The world had changed dramatically since Johnnie Lee Jordan had last walked among the living. Technology had advanced, societal norms had shifted, and the initial shock of his disappearance had long since calcified into a quiet, enduring grief for those who remembered him. For most, he was a historical footnote, a cold case gathering dust. But the forest, unchanging and indifferent to the passage of human time, still held the answers. And on a seemingly ordinary day, deep within the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, those answers would finally begin to emerge. The protagonist of this new chapter was not a seasoned detective or a determined searcher, but a simple logger named Rick Rife. Rick was a man intimately familiar with the rhythms of the forest, his days spent amidst the roar of chainsaws and the thud of falling timber. He knew the trails, the hidden clearings, the temperamental nature of the weather. On this particular day, he was working in an area that had been recently cleared, the once dense canopy now open to the sky. His task involved removing a large, stubborn tree stump, a remnant of a massive Douglas fir that had dominated the landscape for centuries. It was a routine job, physically demanding but otherwise unremarkable. As he maneuvered his equipment, a powerful piece of machinery designed to extract even the most deeply rooted stumps, he noticed something unusual. Beneath the network of gnarled roots, partially obscured by soil and debris, lay a collection of items that were clearly not natural to the forest floor. They were too regular, too artificial, to be mere stones or fallen branches. A flicker of curiosity, perhaps even a nascent sense of unease, compelled him to investigate further. He paused his machinery, the sudden silence of the forest amplifying the beating of his own heart. As he carefully began to clear away the dirt and root systems, the objects began to reveal themselves more clearly. The first item he unearthed was a small, black antenna, its material weathered but still recognizable as belonging to a portable radio. Then, a silver pendant, its intricate design tarnished by years of exposure to the elements, but still retaining a faint glimmer of its original beauty. And finally, an ID card, its plastic casing cracked and faded, but the photo and name still discernible. It was Johnnie Lee Jordan. The name, though perhaps unfamiliar to Rick in that immediate moment, instantly connected to a local legend, a long-forgotten tragedy. A wave of disbelief, followed by a chilling realization, washed over him. These were not just forgotten items. They were personal effects, intimate fragments of a life lost, buried deep beneath the earth. The implication was immediate and profound. These objects had been deliberately hidden, concealed from sight, not simply lost. This was no accident. This was something far darker. Rick, a man accustomed to the solitude of the forest, suddenly found himself at the nexus of a 2-decade-old mystery. His casual workday had transformed into an archaeological excavation of a crime scene. He immediately contacted the authorities. The news rippled through the local law enforcement agencies, igniting a spark in a case that had long been considered cold. Detectives, many of whom were not even on the force when Jordan disappeared, were suddenly faced with a tangible lead, a physical manifestation of a tragedy that had haunted the community for so long. The discovery was meticulously documented. A team of forensic experts, clad in sterile suits, descended upon the site, transforming the quiet clearing into a bustling hive of scientific investigation. Every inch of the soil was sifted, every root system examined, every fragment of debris carefully scrutinized. The black antenna, the silver pendant, the ID card, each item was handled with the utmost care, photographed, bagged, and sent to a lab for analysis. The items themselves were not enough to provide immediate answers, but their very presence, their deliberate concealment, screamed of foul play. This was not a man who had simply wandered off and succumbed to the elements. This was a man who had met with a more brutal, more deliberate end. The discovery under the tree stump served as a grim exclamation point to 20 years of silence. It shattered the comfortable assumption of an accidental death, replacing it with the chilling certainty of murder. The forest, which had guarded its secrets with such fierce resolve, had finally begun to speak, and its voice was a cold, hard truth. The initial investigation into the disappearance of Reverend Jordan had been thorough, but without a body or a definitive crime scene, it had inevitably reached an impasse. Now, with Rick Rife's discovery, a new chapter was opened, and the hunt for answers was reinvigorated with a fierce urgency. The items, seemingly innocuous on their own, collectively painted a disturbing picture. The antenna, confirmed to be from a portable CB radio, suggested communication, perhaps even a struggle for communication, in the moments leading up to his demise. The silver pendant, later identified as a unique piece of jewelry belonging to Reverend Jordan, was a deeply personal item, not something he would have casually discarded. Its presence at the burial site was a stark indicator of a violent end, and the ID card, his official identification, further cemented the connection to the missing pastor. But the most significant revelation was yet to come. As forensic technicians carefully excavated the area around the stump, their work painstaking and precise, they made a more profound, more chilling discovery: human remains.